When I first agreed to this trial, I thought, how am I going to do this so that I could capture the students' imagination and capture their enthusiasm and curiosity and sense of wonder? My inquiry was based around the big idea of where the students fit in the world, and also for them to make the connections, and not just superficially, but to make the connections on a level that was deeper than just where do you come from, where are we? Getting the children to understand what geography was, we started with where they were in the world. So where are we? And questioning them, getting them to really think deeply about where they fitted in. It was really interesting that it's all about, as I've said, it's all about the students at this stage. It's all about their lives and their world. And we looked at the moment, we are where? We're in the classroom. We're at Cowandilla Primary School. Where's Cowandilla Primary School? It's in the suburb of Cowandilla. Then we started to move out. And where is Cowandilla in the world? It's in Adelaide. It was really interesting because before asking them, has anyone been out of Australia, they would say, yes, I've been to Sydney. I've been to Victor Harbour. And so their whole concept of direction and place, it was like, okay, so let's have a look at a map. And from there, we started to really look at exactly where they were, and then I was fortunate because I have new arrival students in the class and they come from other countries. And so then for them, their reality was different to, say, the students that were born and bred around Cowandilla. So we started from a point where they knew, like from where they were born. And then we eventually got to look at where we were in the world. And that's where being on the internet, we explored maps, we explored Google Earth, and then they started to think differently. They started to ask questions. Victor Harbour then became part of South Australia. We looked at the maps, and then they actually looked at the state, whereas before that, it was a concept that some of them just found a little bit hard to understand, although the new arrival students got it just like that because they'd been on a plane, they'd come out to Australia. And the questioning and the connections that were being made within the class itself were just wonderful, because then they started asking deeper questions like, where are you from? So where's that on the map? And I just let them go. During the trial, I tried to have as many resources around the classroom as possible to help support me in teaching geography confidently, and also for the children to have hands-on experience with resources like atlases. We actually purchased atlases that were at their level and quite comprehensive, and for the first lesson I just let the children explore, and it was really interesting to watch them because the atlas was geared for early years, and so it was all about them. So they started with their bedroom and they mapped out their bedroom, and it was really interesting because they did the bird's eye view, and it's very difficult for young children to do that. I was really impressed though because they did a really good job with it. Amazing to see. During free time, the students would go to the globes, even if it wasn't a geography lesson, and we did call it geography. They were really rapt with that because they learnt the history, the origins of the word, and they were very proud to say, we know what geography means. And when the principal came in one day, she saw that the kids were all really engrossed in what they were doing, and she loves to ask them questions, and she said to the first group of children, so what are you doing? And they said, we're doing geography. She goes, oh, so what does geography mean? And it was really interesting that they were able to say that it means it's all about the earth, and that it was a Greek word because it had PH in it. So there was a lot came out of just the simple concepts and just even the word. So that was a really, that was a highlight. That was an aha moment. A fascinating part of the trial was when we were in the computer room, and the students love having computer lessons, and I try and make them meaningful rather than just sitting in front of the screen and playing games or just putting together digital art. We're really lucky in that we have Google Earth on all our computers across the network, and so the students became quite adept at trying to find places in the world. And sometimes the spelling would be interesting, so they'd land somewhere really unusual, but it was fun to just hear them going, now where are we? What is this place? Google Earth is a great resource, and it also helped them. They knew all about street level as well, so it gave them different views of the world. They could view it from a bird's eye view, and they could view it from the street level, and they became really, really confident in using those terms and understanding them. Great to see the response of the Year 1-2s, the way that they embraced geography. They were eager to have geography every week. They would have it every day if they could. And of course, I tried to make the connections through other areas of the curriculum. But they would be just hanging out for Thursday afternoon. During reading time, they would grab a globe, and I'd say, what are you doing? We're reading the globe. Now, before we had all the resources around the room, the students never really leaned towards that. They didn't ask me whether they could just check out the world or whatever. But with the resources there, I let them just explore. And it was interesting to see that it wasn't a novelty after a while, and their questioning was started to be like, are we in space or is this a place? That was a fantastic lesson. I have a passion for IT in my teaching, and I try to incorporate it in such a way that it's seamless and the students aren't using it as, it's time for computer. I noticed a change in the way that they were using a familiar program, in that it had specific backgrounds such as landscapes, landmarks, nature, and I started to realise that the students were able to make connections, and they were able to really think about the backgrounds that they were using. In the past, they might have just used a fancy background and put trees and put different things in the front. But now what they do is they think about it. They think about where is it. And with the landmarks, they were able to choose landmarks from around the world. Yes, it did say where they were or what they were, but lots of times they hadn't actually, for example, the Sydney Opera House. One of the students found it and said, oh, I've been here. Where is that? And then another student asked, where is that? And they got into this really cool discussion about Sydney is in Australia, but you have to go by plane or you can drive, but I went by plane. And it was really interesting to see how they were engaged. And I let them talk because, learning is a social thing and kids like to talk to each other. I came across a resource that was aimed at the early years. It was fantastic. It was about a young girl and her world. And she started looking at labels, the labels of things. And she'd ask her mum, oh, what does this mean? Oh, that means that's made in Australia. Oh, and then she found a pair of thongs. Where were these? What does it say here? Made in China. So she went about exploring exploring everything around her. I read the story to the students. It was great because it had photographs. And they were absolutely engrossed in this because they could see themselves, and they probably asked the same questions. And right at the end, there was a map of the world. So I photocopied the map of the world and I said to them, okay, so this is what that young girl found out. Well, how about you start checking out things around the room? At which point they got their clipboard, so they felt all official, and they had their paper and their map, and then they were trying to find the different countries. But we only focused on a few. Like I pointed out that we looked at Australia, we looked at China, we looked at New Zealand, just the ones that we thought that I thought that they could start with. Because after studying geography, the students showed wonderment at the world around them and beyond. They were also engaged in their learning, and they started to make deeper connections to the world around them. It was wonderful to see students of a non-English background feeling pride, especially when their country was mentioned, and when we found their country on the globe. It was also great hearing the students questioning with meaning and clarity. We worked a lot on questioning, and that came through because geography is that kind of subject that it's like why, what, how. it's all questions. And really, the students were asking questions really well, but they also knew that sometimes the answer was going to take a while to come about, and it wasn't always one answer. It was also successful because I was watching the students become very confident in using the computer and the interactive whiteboard, not just in a meaningless, or not a meaningless way, but it's just like playing games and just the visual stuff. But they were actually searching for information, they were looking for information. By participating in this trial, I was able to attend some professional learning activities. One of these was going to Melbourne to attend the state conference for geography teachers, and it was wonderful to see that they had one day that was solely for early years teachers and primary school teachers. This helped me to further develop my geographical thinking and to get the concepts, and also to check out what resources were available. And I brought back quite a few resources which then helped me teach geography in the class. This professional learning has helped me acquire the knowledge and experience to teach geography to my class next year.